Something that I've been struggling with for a few years is how to talk about what I'm experiencing spiritually to people who haven't experienced these things yet. And another thing I've been struggling with is how to talk about these things to people that haven't experienced them yet, but not in a way where they think that you're bragging or you think that you know the way that things are and that's the only way, or that you somehow think you're better than everybody else because you can see or do these things, you know? But more importantly, I've been struggling with how to explain these spiritual things that I'm experiencing, so that others can understand, but not only understand, so that they can break away from these narratives that we've all been fed since we were infants. All these ideas of spirituality and everything that goes with spirituality, the light and the dark, and how they've been portrayed in ways that aren't real in order to either, one, make my dad of stepping into certain spiritual things, or to keep us so afraid of dying and going to hell that we only worship in a certain way. Does that make sense? And how to explain to people the things that I've been experiencing, but in the starting basic ways, so that they can even start to understand what it is I'm trying to explain to them. Not because I want to seem better than them, but because I want them to know that it's possible for them to experience these things. From the beginning of this journey for me, I quickly realized how much I've been held back from experiencing joy and happiness. Not that I didn't know how energy transference worked and now I have a bunch of dark entities on me. Because even though something like that might be true, the real thing I want to express is that we have the ability to change that. That we have the ability to manipulate all things. And that even though dark things are there, and will always be there, that so are light things. And once you step into this, you learn how to change and manipulate and protect yourself. But you don't ever get protected until you know the truth. Just like you don't invent something until you have an urge to invent something or a need for something. You see what I mean here? It's like there is so much ecstasy within spirituality. There is so much dopamine that can be felt, but we think the only time we can feel that natural ecstasy or that dopamine is meeting somebody new in a relationship, or doing a type of drug or something like that, when in all actuality we contain DMT. Our natural body contains DMT, and all we need to do in order to experience that DMT is want to. Literally. And not only that, but once you experience what ecstasy, what DMT, what anything that you can think of feels like, you can feel that thing at any time without having to necessarily put a substance in your mouth or what have you. That all you have to do is think it. All you have to do is think, I want to feel this right now. And you'll feel it. So before you see this next video, I just wanted to make it clear that I did not film this right now. It was filmed at the beginning of this year, I believe in February. I was just leaning into dimensional and fractal work and learning how to bring all these things together. But more so, Spirit was really calling me, like literally really throwing it on my heart to start expressing my story, even though I didn't feel like I knew how to tell it yet. And it just is all making sense now. Because I went ahead and I would make these videos and I would keep them on my phone, and I just knew that I would know when to post them. So, I hope you take the time to watch my video, and there is a lot of trigger warnings. If you don't like trauma, don't listen to it. And I'm going to be sharing a lot more stories like this in the future. I hung out with my grandma on the weekends and stuff like that. And my dad was the other main person in my life. Even though he wasn't the best role model. And my mother was in and out of my life. Her and my dad were always in a toxic relationship, and she was always coming and going. And he would have her back whenever she came back, but it was always a fight, screaming and yelling and chaos. And then whenever my mom was gone, my dad would have a couple girlfriends. I was the oldest, and like I said, it was up until the time I was 8. So at that time, I had a brother named Joey who was, I was 8. Joey is 4 years younger than me, so he would have been 4. And then Dustin would have been a year and a half. And my dad, like I said, would have us kids most of the time. But Joey was not my dad's birth child. But my dad still took care of him like he was his own. But sometimes my mom would take Joseph with her. But for some reason, whenever these periods, I just don't remember the boys being with me and my dad a lot when we left the house. And my dad and I would always be out in the car driving around. So I don't know if like a lot of my memories of that is just like before the boys were born or what. Because I guess there was about 4 years there before they were born. But anyway, like, I was my dad's sidekick, basically. Like, I'd be with him all the time when he was out, you know, selling his drugs or picking up chicks or just chilling, getting in trouble, running from the cops, like, constantly. He was always running from the cops, like, in his cars and shit, just speeding, like, as fast as you can with the cops chasing us, and somehow he got away, like, the majority of the time. There was one time that he got pulled over, and I was in the back seat. I think I was in the front. I might have... no, I was in the back seat. And he had drugs with him. The cops were, like, they searched the car and they found it and whatnot, and, like, they had him back in the cop car while I was in the regular car. And my window was open, and I just started singing the cop song, like, bad boys, what you gonna do when they come for you? But when it got, like, really scary, like, when, like, they were handcuffing him and stuff, I, like, literally started freaking out. I was like, no, you can't take my daddy, and I was, like, crying and screaming, and they ended up letting him go. Like, seriously, they were going to arrest him, and then they decided to let him go because of it. And then they ended up giving me a teddy bear, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And when we were driving away after, like, the cops had left and whatnot, my dad literally threw that fucking teddy bear out the window. He was such an asshole, and I was so upset that he did that. But anyway, the story that I am about to tell you is a little sensitive, but this is what inevitably caused my brothers and I to be put into foster care. And for the rest of the traumatic events to happen in my life, my dad was having a party at his house, and I'm pretty sure it was, like, around 4th of July, because I'm pretty sure it was a 4th of July party. These parties always got really fucking crazy, and, like, my dad was a party animal, but he was also responsible most of the time, at least somewhat. Like, he made sure that he was checking on us throughout the night and stuff like that most of the time. But anyway, I was enjoying the party with the rest of the people. Oops. And I noticed that my dad kept getting a bunch of phone calls. My dad was hanging out with Asia that night, which was our neighbor. But I'm pretty sure he was dating this other teenager named Katie at the time. And this was one of the times that my mom was off doing whatever she was doing. And my dad was actually really messed up that night. Like, he had drank a lot, and he had done some other drugs. And I could always tell when he was pretty fucked up, even though I was young, you know? Because I was, like, one of the second caregivers. So I had to kind of be on guard, I guess. But he kept getting phone calls that night from what I thought was my mom. I thought he was fighting with my mom. I'm pretty sure he was. And she was saying that, she was gonna come over because, like, obviously she was pissed off that he was having a party and that the girls were there and whatnot, and that she was gonna come over and she was gonna kick Katie's ass, is what she was saying. And so I guess my dad just decided that he was going to shut down the party, and instead he was going to go to a friend's house to party. And I was trying to kind of like get him to stop, to stay home, like, because I knew he shouldn't have been driving. And I'm like, Dad, no, let's just stay here, please. I don't want to go anywhere. And of course he wasn't having it. So nobody could talk him out of staying home. And so he piled us kids in the car, my two brothers and me, and called Katie and told her not to come over. I guess I messed up. And instead, he decided to take Asia with us, who was also 16. And we were going to be going to my Uncle Johnny's house, who kind of lives like out in the country, which was, you know, at least 30 minutes from my dad's house, if not a little bit longer. And this house I used to go to because it was a farm and it had exotic animals like a black panther and others there. But the guy who we knew before that lived there with the animals no longer lived there. He had sold the place to one of my dad's other friends who we were going to go see at this time. And so anyway, we're driving and my dad's blasting the music. My dad has beer that he took with, and he has his drugs and everything in the car. We are traveling in my dad's Chevelle that was red with the black top. It was super late. Dad was drunk. My dad always drove like a maniac when he was drunk. And he's blasting the music. I actually had fought with my brothers when we were getting into the car about how I wanted to sit in the middle because I was a nosy little brat. I always had to have my nose in whatever everybody was talking about, the adults, because I was a little adult myself, you know. I was 18 going on 8, or 18 going on 19 when I was 8. So I wanted to sit in the middle, and I won that battle. And had I not sat in the middle, I would have sat where my brother Joey was. So we are driving, and the boys are asleep on both of my arms. My dad and Asia are talking here and there, and they have the radio was like blasting, so I could hardly hear what they were saying. But my dad kept getting, his pager would go off, and he would get upset. And I remember him saying, before anybody kills me, I'm gonna kill myself. And then right after he got done saying that, he lifted his hands off the wheel. the car went into the ditch. And it was still flying because it was going so fast. I'm awake for all of this. I was like even preparing my body as soon as like his hands went off the wheel. So we're in the ditch and the car is still flying, and it hits one tree that's a little smaller. And it breaks it down and it's still flying. And it hits another tree. And we hit another tree. 3 trees total. Ugh. When it was finally still, and like my dad and my brother Joey weren't saying anything at all. There was blood everywhere. Asia and I finally started talking, and she's like, we gotta get out of here. We gotta get help. And I said, okay. She's like, but I can't see anything. I can't see at all. I'm like, all right. And I like guided her over by the field, away from the car, and I handed my baby brother Dustin to her, and I said, hold him, and I'm gonna try to get Dad and Joey out of the car. So I go in and I get Joey first, and I get him out of his car seat, and he's just covered in blood. Completely floppy. So I get him out of the car and I drag him all the way over to the field where Katie was. And then I go back for my dad, and I'm pulling and pushing everything off of him. I'm doing my best and I'm giving it my all and putting all of my strength into it, but I cannot get him loose. His feet, his legs were completely underneath his seat, all the way into the back seat. and the car was like squashed, and the battery, like the engine of the car, was on my dad's lap. The steering wheel was smashed all the way back against the seat, and his head was like a pancake. And once again, his body was just limp. But yeah, I keep trying and trying to get him out, and I just can't. But the only thing that keeps going through my head is the car's gonna blow up. You gotta get him out of the car's gonna catch fire and blow up. And I'm like really struggling, and Asia finally says to me, she's like, Tara, you gotta let them go. I don't think they're alive anymore. I think they're dead. And I just don't say anything. I just went quiet. She's like, we gotta go get help. But again, I can't see. I don't know how far away it's gonna be. I said, I see a house. Doesn't look like it's too far away. Give me your hand and I'll guide you there. So we get to this house, the first one. I was on the same side of the road, and it wasn't very far at all. Probably a couple 100 feet, if anything. And so this is the road, right? And the house is over here, and the wreck is right here. So we're on the road and we're walking, and when you come up upon their house, so you see like their living room or whatnot is like out further, and then you have like a driveway and like a walkway, and you walk down the walkway, and then their door is there, and then another part of the house, so it kind of looks like an L shape. And I ring the doorbell, and I knock on the door as well. And finally this like old lady, or this oldish lady, came into the door first. She's probably in her 50s or so. And then her husband sees us, and he comes over to the door too. And I said, can you help us please? My dad and my brother are dead. Oh, we got into a car accident. My dad and my brother are dead. I think they're dead. And so the little old lady was like, oh my gosh, yes, come on in now, come on in here. And she's like pushing us in. She's like, here, let me help you get cleaned up, and my husband's gonna call 911 right away. And so he calls 911, and as soon as he's done on the phone call, he tells his wife he's gonna go out and he's gonna see what he can do. He's gonna see if he can help. So he calls 911, and as soon as he's done on the phone call, he tells his wife he's gonna go out and he's gonna see what he can do. He's gonna see if he can help. The lady had Dustin. I don't know if he was sleeping at that point or not, but me and Asia were in the bathroom, and we're trying to get like the blood off our faces and stuff. And she finally gets most of the blood off of her face, and she still has like glass in her face and everything, but she says, look at me, I'm not pretty anymore. And I looked at her straight in the face, and I was like, that's what you're worried about? That's what you're worried about, whether or not you're pretty. seemed like in no time the ambulance was there, and before that I could hear the helicopter. And when they were hooking me up to the board to put me on the ambulance, I was asking them about my dad and my brother, and they told me that they were going to be okay. That had I not gotten the help, had we not did what we did, that they would have been dead within 20 minutes. And he looked at me, the firefighter or the EMT guy, and he said, you saved their life. I forgot to put right here that when he said that to me and I knew that they were going to be okay, I was already laying on the board, but I closed my eyes and I said, thank you so much. After I got to the hospital in the ambulance with my little brother Dustin, we were left alone, and my brother was in a crib and I was laying in a bed, and I had the worst headache. It was so bad, I couldn't think. I had a tooth knocked out and I had some bruises, and Dustin had some bruises. And every time like a nurse or something would come up, I remembered them saying about how lucky we were or whatnot. But we didn't go to the same hospital that the others went to. The others were all life-flighted to a different hospital. And I ended up falling asleep for a little bit because my head hurt so bad. And next thing I knew, I was waking up and my grandma was there signing us out. Side note, we didn't call it Children and Youth there, we called it Children's Services. And from that point, me, my grandmother, and my 1.5-year-old brother Dustin walked like 8 miles at least to the other hospital because my grandma needed to check them. Of course, they didn't let her see them, but they said that they were in surgery and they would call her. So then we had to walk all the way to my grandma's house, which was probably like 10 miles, if not more. It was a long fucking walk. I was so fucking exhausted, and we had to take turns carrying Dustin. My feet hurt so fucking bad by the time we got home. And then she wouldn't let us sleep in the house. She was afraid that Children and Youth would show up at the door. So she made us sleep in this little camper thing they had out in the driveway, and she told me to literally be quiet as a mouse if I heard anybody, like not to make my presence known, because she was so afraid that they were going to take us. She was fucking smart. The next day, she had my Uncle Johnny come pick us up to take us to his house to once again kind of like try to keep us away from anybody trying to show up and take us away. And it was the same guy's house that we were going to that night. We get to my Uncle Johnny's house, and my brother is young, you know, so he's sleeping a lot of the time, especially after like such a crazy evening and whatnot. And I just remember thinking, like, this house is so boring and so quiet, because my Uncle Johnny, his girlfriend Barbie, had a couple of small kids, and they were like sleeping a lot of the day too, and they were sleeping as well, and like I'm just like chilling at their house, feeling awkward because I like didn't know them that well, and I just kept feeling like maybe I shouldn't, like I wasn't welcome there or something, which is, you know, probably not true. But and then like I was so sad thinking that, you know, my brother and my dad might not make it still, and I was lonely and scared, and I wasn't used to being alone like that. I wasn't used to having to be quiet like that. Like, I didn't like it at all. So when I seen my mom and my Aunt Rachel pull up in their driveway, I got kind of excited for a minute. Until I noticed there was another car with a couple ladies in it with name tags. And at that point I knew it wasn't going to be good. They knocked on the door and whatnot, and my Aunt Barbie came to the door, and they said that they were children and youth, and that they were there to take us. And boy, did I put up a fit. They took my brother, and he started crying first, and when they tried to take me out of the house, I refused, and they grabbed me and like forced me, and like they had to carry me, and I was kicking and I was screaming, "Don't take me away. I don't want to go. I don't want to go with you. Don't take me away." And I cried the whole car ride to Children and Youth. And luckily, they were going to allow my Aunt Rachel to take us. And she did for a few months. But I tell you what, I never forgave either one of them for doing that. It was already such a horrible night. And I was already so scared about my dad and my brother. My mom and Aunt Rachel did not need to do that. They knew we weren't in danger where we were, but they were spiteful at the time. And it was like one of those things of, now we can finally get our hands on the kids or whatever, while my dad was in the hospital. Which is messed up, considering neither one of them stepped up to the plate after just a few months. I'll explain that later.
Now you storming out my house in the middle of the night. I'm trying to
Pretty much this. And the first video was from the week before. For the good of all and harm to none. Only providing energy connection until this message is finished and the video is ended. Good of all. The good of all and harm to none. And as I spoke those words, it was already done. Connecting. Seeing 3 doors. feels very anxious. Skeptical, worried, trying to analyze. Why'd you do that? My ears are clogging, and it seems like my inner thoughts are screaming at me. But yet I can't make out what they're saying. Just so much worry that somebody can hear them. Can they hear me? And then them trying to listen. I'm seeing a face, but it's huge, and all I can seem to make out is almost a silhouette, but it's a white silhouette with dark shadows in small places. And now it's like less of a suspicious and paranoid feeling, but more of a calm and interested at the edge of my seat, just loving the sound that I'm hearing and the words that are being spoken. And a peace, just comfort. And yet it's like my ears are clogged and muffled and I can't hear anything but static. I want to hide myself. I feel like I don't want to be seen. It's almost like a feeling of shame. And then it was just like an apathy, like almost feeling comfort within feeling nothing whatsoever. And now I feel like I'm just almost nothing at all. That I just am somehow there existing, yet nobody can see or hear it or feel me existing. And almost feeling as if like I'm speaking, but the words that are coming out of my mouth can't be heard, like I'm on mute. And somehow that's making me want to scream, but then I don't understand that I would want to scream when all I want to do is feel and hear and think about nothing. unclouded and unclear. I don't even know if I want to be clear and unclouded, heard or seen, felt or experienced. Somehow the thought of that happening is making me sad and fearful. Now I'm seeing a evil eye symbol. A feeling of needing to put up extra protection, yet still knowing that I'll be protected no matter what. The throat chakra is healing, but it's gonna feel like you can't breathe. Until it clears. It feels like there's something in my throat, like I'm gonna choke, or it's gonna close. Panic was setting in. Now calm and clarity. Peace. Basically, because we were made this specific way, and it's not everybody. Well, it could be everybody, but right now I don't think it's everybody. I think there was like a certain amount of us put here, so that it was like a test for them to see how they would react to us, right? So, say I get into a relationship with somebody, and they hadn't spent a whole lot of time with me, like in certain ways, like maybe we hadn't spent the night, maybe we had only lived together for a month, or just anything like that, right? So they would end up seeing one version of us from one of our lives for maybe the first 3 months, depending on what cycle you needed to go complete in a different lifetime. And basically, the majority of our consciousness would then jump out of our head, and we would only be a part of that consciousness, right? And so during those times, whomever was, say, our partner in that life, in that time that you just left, in the time that you split from, consciousness would almost be like, they'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why don't you know how to add anymore? Or why are you acting like a baby? Like, I don't understand you. Right? And it was even more confusing because we didn't just do these switches for a day or 2 days. It was long periods at time, at least weeks. And during that time, we would be in a whole different existence or world or whatever, in one of our souls' hierarchy, one of the highest of our soul, like our soul essence, right? And it would just split a little bit into these other lifetimes. And sometimes, like, our full consciousness would be in one, and other times, like, the very least of our consciousness would be in one of our bodies. And so, basically, this was used to test humanity, right? It was used to see which one of these people, or how many of these people, would take advantage of us, thinking we were less there, you know? And boy, did a lot of fucking people fail the test. A lot of people failed the fucking test. A lot of people misused your body, misused your time, misused all of you, Tara, like all of you. But the fact is, most of the time, you consciously knew you were doing this shift. But sometimes you would forget. Sometimes you were so aware of it, it just made ultimate sense to you, but other times you couldn't figure out why your life was so fucking chaotic. Shit. Of course, all those different times would all depend on how much of your consciousness was in you at that time. So, like, for instance, when Joey said he walked in on you and Dad, and that Dad was molesting you with Dad, he knew that he shouldn't be in there because your face said it all, because you were somewhere otherworldly, right? It's because you'd be like, oh crap, Daddy's in that mood again, or shit, Daddy needs to be, oh my god. Oh, fuck. To stop and look at the signs from all the different directions you might be getting.
Mother of witches, queen of ghosts, keeper of hell's chaos, bringer of storms.
System has been on alert at such a high capacity for so long that you're just jittering like you've been on cocaine for 10 years and haven't slept in 3 weeks and have been drinking coffee nonstop. It is okay to calm down. You're not meant to carry this all. If the people in your life don't offer you support, then it's actually better to get it somewhere else. Because when we don't get any support at all, our body starts to break down and die. You've known this all along. But you've been kind of mean about it at times, and even afraid and ashamed. any time that we have stepped into that shadow of ourselves, it was because it was needed. You were dying. You were dying a literal death. You had to cut off. You did exactly what you needed to and were meant to. You did nothing wrong. Your goal has always been to bring the best out of you. But you needed to help transmute all of the other pain. And when nobody is pouring back into you, you will run out of juice. Especially when you lack passion. That shadow side of us never brought us joy. We never seeked to distribute pain. Whether or not that shadow caused pain was not yours to bear. It is okay to let go now. Surrender and release. I surrender. All okay to be you now. It is okay to be seen. You don't have to be afraid now. Nobody's gonna take you away. I'm okay. I'm okay. I am loved. I am intelligent. And I am kind. You have saved a lot of lives. So lots of people help save. My body's shaking. It's that your nervous system has been on alert at such a high capacity for so long that you're just jittering like you've been on cocaine for 10 years and haven't slept in 3 weeks and have been drinking coffee nonstop. It is okay to calm down. You're not meant to carry this all. If the people in your life don't offer you support, then it's actually better to get it somewhere else. Because when we don't get any support at all, our body starts to break down and die. You've known this all along. But you've been kind of mean about it at times and even afraid and ashamed. Anytime that we have stepped into that shadow of ourselves, it was because it was needed. You were dying. You were dying a literal death. You did exactly what you needed to and were meant to. You did nothing wrong. Your goal has always been to bring the best out of you. But you needed to help transmute all of the other pain. And when nobody is pouring back into you, you will run out of juice. Especially when you lack passion. That shadow side of us never brought us joy. We never seeked to distribute pain. Whether or not that shadow caused pain was not yours to bear. It is okay to let go now. Surrender and release. I surrender. All of this shame. I surrender all of the pain. It is okay to be you now. It is okay to be seen. You don't have to be afraid now. Nobody's gonna take you away. I'm okay. I'm okay. I am loved. I am intelligent. And I am kind.